start again. It's a rich thing.
What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a lot to say about the Chicago Bulls losing streak at this point in time. We've talked about what went wrong for the Chicago Bulls. We've talked about the coaching staff for the Chicago Bulls. However, today we're going to take a different turn of events. We're going to take the mood and hopefully try to brighten it up a little bit, obviously, as our 5-game losing streak still glares around the Chicago Bulls at the moment. The players, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I want to talk about in today's video. I want to talk about what the players have had to say in the last couple of the press conference that we've had recently after our losses, and I want to say some of the good things and the bad things that they've said throughout the course of those post-game conferences. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about all of the players that we'll be talking about today, what they've had to say. We'll also be talking about what Billy Donovan said as well. But throughout the whole circumstance, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts of the Chicago Bulls is and the players that have been speaking at this point in time. So, the whole point of this video is, again, to assess and analyze some of the things that have gone wrong for the Chicago Bulls, but also talk about some of the positive things that they're saying, as well as try to brighten up the mood for the Chicago Bulls. The intention here is to be as positive as possible behind this video, because at the end of the day, I've said before, the fans have every right to be concerned. The media can think whatever they want about the Chicago Bulls. I don't think anybody's concerned about what the media has to say. But fans have a right to be concerned. But the people that I don't want to be concerned are the players. The players are the most important part to this whole contingency plan with the Chicago Bulls when it comes to the fans and the coaches and the players. The players are the ones that are on the court delivering or not delivering every night for the Chicago Bulls. So out of all people that I feel should not be worried, the last people I want to be worried are the players. And so far, they've seemed to come together very nicely. They've said some nice things, said some decent things that really makes me believe that they're not worried about what's going to be happening to the Chicago Bulls in the future, and that they're fully confident in the team that they have. So, with that being said, let's start off with obviously the obvious point of that with DeMar DeRozan. He ended up saying, I believe this was after the Milwaukee Bucks game, the post-game conference for the Milwaukee Bucks game, that he's not worried at all about the current Chicago Bulls situation. I believe he also said that we do have a couple of guys out that have really hurt the Chicago Bulls. That's obviously something we'll be talking about probably until they return. That's how serious it is when those guys are out. But he says that he's far from worried about what's been happening to the Chicago Bulls recently. He said he is very much fully confident in himself, his team, and what this team has been able to do this season for him to be worried. And again, big thing, best thing to say, if you're DeMar DeRozan, you're the leader of the team, you have to show that you're not afraid of what's been happening for the Chicago Bulls. You have to show that you're not worried about the Chicago Bulls, because being the captain of the team in many ways, if you express doubt to this team, then the team will begin to doubt itself. And already we are starting to see frustration, which leads to other players getting frustrated. When DeMar DeRozan gets frustrated, that will go to the rest of the group. The rest of the group will also be frustrated. So if he comes out and says that he's worried or he's not confident about what this team is going through at the moment, then the rest of the team will begin to be worried and will begin to lack even more confidence than what they currently are at this point in time. So DeMar DeRozan is coming out and being a leader, and the leader is that someone that will continue to support the team through its ups and its downs, and obviously to try and lead the team out of a very tough situation that the Chicago Bulls are currently going in. So I'm very, very happy with what DeMar DeRozan has been saying over the past few post-game conferences, but mainly the Milwaukee Bucks one, I believe. But all I can say is now is it's time to practice what we preach, ladies and gentlemen, because there have been a few guys that have been talking about what's gone wrong for the Chicago Bulls. Again, the biggest talking point that I've seen against the Philadelphia 76ers is that we fouled too much as a team, as a collective unit. We foul too much. If you look at the personal fouls per game for the Chicago Bulls and you look at all the players, I believe the only person that didn't foul against the Philadelphia 76ers was Troy Brown Jr. Everybody else committed one or more fouls at that game, which is a little bit bizarre to me to really consider. And of course, the referees is a different conversation entirely. And if it continues to go the way that it's going, we'll have to make a video about how the referees are contributing to the wins and losses losses for the Chicago Bulls. But mainly on the Bulls side of things, Billy Donovan is someone that has been speaking very much about those foul calls and how today, maybe against Philadelphia, we went for a different approach. We're beginning to be a little bit more physical, and that obviously affected the Chicago Bulls, setting the tone, as Tristan Thompson said a couple of times. But we begin to reach, we begin to slap our hands down on the opponents, and we begin to give away a little bit of those easier foul calls that the Chicago Bulls should not be doing. He's been speaking a lot about that and how we have to reduce our fouls. He also got asked a question if the Chicago Bulls are that type of team. It's just in their DNA, it's who they are. And to be honest, I think it's very easy to put a narrative or put a perspective on a Bulls player or a Bulls team. Oh, they're just a team that likes to foul, they like to slap and stuff of that nature. At the end of the day, look, it could be very well put into our DNA, but I strongly believe in players being able to learn from mistakes that they make. It's the whole point of the NBA. It's the whole point of an off-season. It's the whole point of seeing guys like Ayo Dosunmu develop from a guy that barely got any minutes to being the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls. You don't die out of these habits overnight, but you can certainly learn how to avoid some of the, bad habits that the teams have. And that takes a lot of time. That probably will take years of work for the Chicago Bulls team to do, but it's important that we stick together and we work out of those situations. There will be some good nights where the Bulls don't foul at all, and there'll be some bad nights like Philadelphia and the Milwaukee Bucks where we constantly foul and it begins to get a little bit too much. But the most important thing now is that, again, something else that Billy Donovan said is that you have to speak the truth, ladies and gentlemen. It's very hard to admit the truth for a lot of these guys. It's very hard as a person to admit the truth that's staring in front of you. And Billy Donovan said that everybody on this team needs to work better, needs to find ways to improve, including the coaching staff. And we've been critical of the coaching staff before, and we'll probably be critical of the coaching staff in the future. I'm sure many people were critical of the coaching staff against Philadelphia. Whatever the case may be, that is something that Billy Donovan has openly admitted to the rest of the world, ladies and gentlemen. He admits he can do better. He admits the team can do better. But the most important thing he admitted is that we have to face the truth in front of us. And that truth is that we did foul a lot against Philadelphia, and we do need to find ways to improve against those elite teams. That is the truth at our point in this season right now. He's also openly said right now with the Chicago Bulls, we might not have enough to beat those elite teams. Billy Donovan also said at one point or another that he's not sure how this team is going to look when it's fully healthy. I guess this goes to show with the little game time that they've all had together as a fully healthy squad that we've done very, very well, but also we don't know because we haven't had a full season of it. So it's very interesting to see what will happen when we get guys back. Hopefully they come back very soon so we can at least have a little bit of game time with all of them ready to play for the Chicago Bulls. But these are very important things that the coaching staff, DeMar DeRozan, has said about the Chicago Bulls team. And the last thing I want to talk about is what Tristan Thompson had to say. He obviously had a post-game interview against the Philadelphia 76ers after that game. He said a couple of things. Obviously, he's talked about narratives a lot before and how the narratives of the Chicago Bulls are beginning to be formed by the media and by everybody else about the Bulls not being able to beat elite teams and how we are struggling at the moment and the next man up mentality. Tristan Thompson mentioned that a lot, and the narrative is beginning to be formed. It's beginning to be formed by the media. It's beginning to be formed by people like me as well in the comment section. Everybody just talking about the Chicago Bulls. The media will begin to express what they feel, and then obviously everybody else will be talking about it alongside of it. So that narrative is beginning to be formed. I don't think that will ever be able to be stopped. You can either choose to believe that narrative, or you can choose to go against the narrative, or you could just have faith that the Bulls can fight their way out of the narrative in total. I guess those are the scenarios that the Chicago Bulls fans have at the moment, the dilemma that we have on our hands. But he also mentioned something else very interesting, and it kind of brings me to the point of this video where I'm a little bit confused of what I think this Bulls team is, because he said that playoff basketball is obviously very different to the regular season. That's the first thing that he kind of brought into the situation. And he gave an example of, I guess, the Cleveland Cavaliers team that he was on, and he was facing the Atlanta Hawks team, who was a very good team at that time, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they swept the Cleveland Cavaliers, that Atlanta Hawks team. But in the playoffs, the Cleveland Cavaliers swept the Atlanta Hawks. I guess that message is that just because a team like Philadelphia, who at the moment has swept the Chicago Bulls in the regular season, doesn't necessarily mean that we verse them in a 7-game series, that they would be the favorites to, I guess, beat the Chicago Bulls, or that we would not be able to win a series against them, or potentially we could sweep them. Things of that nature. What he's trying to say pretty much is that the playoffs is a very different dilemma. It's a very different game. It's a very different situation. And he also said the team that makes the best adjustments will be the team that walks out in the end with that championship. So, all things considered, that's a very interesting thing to put into perspective. Again, we all talk about how important these regular season games are, and they are very important. I still believe that. Just because he said the playoffs is a different scenario doesn't mean that I don't think the regular season is important whatsoever. I feel like the regular season is extremely important towards our season. More importantly, it's extremely important for the confidence of the team coming into the playoffs, knowing that we deserve to be one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, and to have that taken away from us could mean everything to the Chicago Bulls, in my opinion. I don't believe in the idea that the regular season is not important for us. But I also believe that some of the things that he's saying obviously has come with merit, and it's come with facts, and it's potentially true. Even if we don't make, I guess, the top 4 of the Eastern Conference, let's say we fall to 5th or we fall to 6th, I sincerely hope we don't fall into the play-in, but at this point, I still feel that's very unlikely. If we fall to those seeds in the Eastern Conference, the playoffs is that type of situation where the best adjustments and the best teams will end up walking away with the win. And maybe the Chicago Bulls team at the moment has shown that they can't beat the elite teams, but maybe on the nights when it matters, they find that extra motivation, they find that extra will to win. And these are the things that Tristan Thompson was trying to say. So it's a very interesting conversation to have there. And this is one of those things where we look back in hindsight. If we, for example, versus Philadelphia in the second round, we get swept by Philadelphia 4-0, then obviously hindsight, what Tristan Thompson said doesn't mean much, because at the end of the day, maybe we just weren't good enough to beat Philadelphia, and maybe that big 3 that's so good according to his eyes might not be as good as we first intended it to be. We'll wait and see, obviously, but hindsight is something that we can't control at the moment. If we do beat Philadelphia, then there's a lot of merit and a lot of credibility to what Tristan Thompson has to say, but veterans have a lot to say, and usually what they say is correct. So we'll wait and see what Tristan Thompson and the Chicago Bulls can do in those situations. If we verse a good team in the Eastern Conference, like a Miami, like a Philly, like a Milwaukee Bucks, teams like that, Brooklyn as well, there's a very good chance we could be facing Brooklyn. These types of teams that we deliver on the night, we deliver on the series, then yeah, I honestly believe what he says, and I think what he says has a lot of merit. And I think a lot of what these guys are saying have merit. I think what DeMar DeRozan says has merit. I expect these players not to be worried one little bit about what they're going through, but I expect them to be desperate to win. I believe that Billy Donovan can do better, and I believe a lot of these guys could do better. There's a lot of merit to what he says, and it's all about facing the truth. And obviously what Tristan Thompson said about the playoffs, how it's a different game, how we could be very different team in the playoffs, and all of that also has merit. And I guess only time will see how positive or negative that playoff run for the Chicago Bulls will be. We'll have to wait and see. But that's all about the post-game interviews that the Chicago Bulls have had. These are what Chicago Bulls players and coaches have said recently about this Chicago Bulls team. I guess the most important things to take away from it. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'll see you in another Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.